What happens when you dedicate an entire year to self-improvement? I've spent the last 12 months diving deep into habits, mindset shifts, and personal growth. And what I discovered might surprise you. It's not about chasing perfection or endless productivity hacks. It's about facing uncomfortable truths, building discipline, and learning how to truly show up for yourself. In this video, I'm sharing the most valuable lessons that changed my life after 1 year on this journey. Let's dive in. Today we will talk about what I learned after 1 year of self-improvement. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Discipline beats motivation every time. When I first began my self-improvement journey, I was fueled by excitement and motivation. I read countless books, watched endless YouTube videos, and created detailed routines. But within a few weeks, that initial surge of motivation faded, and I realized I couldn't rely on feeling inspired every day. The biggest lesson I learned is that discipline is far more valuable than motivation. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline, on the other hand, is the muscle that carries you through the days when you don't feel like working out, when you don't want to read, or when you want to hit snooze instead of waking up early. Building discipline required me to create small, non-negotiable habits, like journaling for 5 minutes each morning, or exercising for at least 10 minutes a day. Over time, these small commitments rewired my brain to act without negotiating with my emotions. 2. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. When people start self-improvement, they often believe they need to make huge changes overnight. I made this mistake by initially pushing myself to wake up at 5 a.m., read 2 books a week, and exercise daily at high intensity. The result? Burnout within the first month. One of the most humbling lessons I learned is that consistency will always outperform unsustainable intensity. Tiny, manageable improvements compounded over time lead to transformational change. For example, when I committed to reading just 10 pages per day instead of an entire book in a weekend, I finished more books in a year than I had in the past 5. When I focused on short, regular workouts instead of exhausting myself, I actually stuck to the habit. The power of consistency lies in its ability to build momentum. Small steps don't feel significant in the moment, but when you string them together for months, they create extraordinary results. 3. Your environment shapes your success. Perhaps one of the most overlooked factors in self-improvement is your environment. I used to believe that my willpower alone would carry me through, but I quickly learned that your surroundings have a silent, but powerful influence on your behavior. When I surrounded myself with clutter, distractions, and people who weren't growth-oriented, I found it almost impossible to stay focused. Conversely, when I intentionally redesigned my environment, keeping my workspace minimal, turning off notifications, surrounding myself with books and podcasts that fed my growth, I found it much easier to stay aligned with my goals. Even more importantly, the people I spent time with changed everything. When I distanced myself from negative influences and connected with people who valued self-improvement, my standards naturally rose. 4. Your mindset determines your reality. One of the most profound shifts I experienced over the past year was the transformation of my mindset. In the beginning, I often operated from a fixed mindset. I believed I wasn't good at certain things, that my talents were limited, and that failure was something to fear. Through reading, journaling, and painful self-reflection, I developed a growth mindset. I started seeing challenges as opportunities to grow instead of threats. Failure became feedback instead of a stopping point. This shift didn't happen overnight. It was built by repeatedly exposing myself to growth-oriented ideas, practicing gratitude, and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I also learned the importance of self-talk. The way I spoke to myself used to be harsh and judgmental, which created a ceiling for my potential. Changing that inner dialogue to one of encouragement and curiosity unlocked a level of progress I never thought possible. 5. Health is the ultimate productivity hack. When I started self-improvement, I was heavily focused on time management, morning routines, and goal setting. I didn't fully appreciate how critical physical health is to every other part of life. Without proper sleep, nutrition, and movement, you're playing the game of life at a disadvantage. I learned this the hard way after several months of poor sleep, caffeine overload, and inconsistent eating habits left me feeling sluggish and mentally foggy. Once I made health a non-negotiable, getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, exercising regularly, hydrating, and eating whole foods, my energy levels soared. I could think more clearly, work more efficiently, and sustain my focus longer. It became obvious that health isn't just about looking good. It's the fuel for achieving every other goal. 6. Self-awareness is the superpower no one talks about. Throughout my year of self-improvement, I realized that self-awareness is the invisible thread that ties everything together. Without it, you're just following random advice that may not suit your life. I used to blindly copy the routines and habits of successful people without questioning whether they aligned with my personality, goals, or circumstances. Over time, through deep journaling, solitude, and honest reflection, I became more aware of what actually works for me. I noticed when I'm most productive, what genuinely motivates me, and where my time leaks happen. Self-awareness helped me uncover limiting beliefs I didn't know I had. It allowed me to recognize toxic patterns like perfectionism and procrastination before they sabotaged my progress. It also taught me that self-improvement is deeply personal. What works for one person may be completely ineffective for another. 7. Embracing discomfort is the gateway to growth. If there's one thing self-improvement forces you to confront, it's your relationship with discomfort. Initially, I resisted hard conversations, challenging workouts, and unfamiliar situations. I preferred comfort zones because they felt safe, but I quickly realized that nothing significant grows there. The most valuable growth I experienced came from leaning into discomfort, whether it was waking up early when I didn't feel like it, tackling projects that intimidated me, or addressing my own emotional weaknesses. I learned to see discomfort as a signal that I'm stepping into new territory. In fact, when I wasn't uncomfortable, it usually meant I was playing too small. By shifting my relationship with discomfort, I was able to face fears I'd previously avoided, like public speaking, networking, and taking creative risks. Growth and comfort simply cannot coexist. 8. Progress isn't linear, and that's okay. One of the hardest but most freeing lessons I learned is that self-improvement is not a straight line. There were weeks when I felt unstoppable and others when I fell into old habits and self-doubt. In the past, I would have seen those setbacks as failures and abandoned my goals altogether. But now, I understand that progress is a messy, unpredictable process. It's filled with plateaus, dips, and unexpected detours. Learning to forgive myself during setbacks and recommit without shame was essential. I also realized the importance of measuring progress holistically. Sometimes the biggest wins aren't external achievements, but internal shifts, like reacting calmly in situations where I used to lose control or prioritizing rest without guilt. The journey of self-improvement isn't about perfection. It's about resilience, self-compassion, and the ability to keep showing up, even when the results aren't immediately visible. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.